Right, let's move on now. Well, we'll share with you right now who's going to be on your screen in just a few moments. This essentially is all about building attention intelligence, really strengthening focus and leading with presence in this AI accelerated world, which sometimes can be a little bit overwhelming, and trying to make sense of it all in the right way. Well, this next gentleman about to pop up on the screen right now, someone who, in fact, you've seen him quite a few times throughout HR Week already, giving us some certain pieces of advice and things we can sort of take heed of as we go as well. Please, a warm round of applause. I can't hear that, but I'm sure it's happening somewhere in the world through the screen. Digital Wellbeing Advocate, Mr. Alexander Bell. Alexander, come on in.
Okay, here we go. Just like magic. You can see me, you can hear me.
We can. We certainly can. Fantastic. Listen, I'm gonna leave you right now. A little bit later on, towards the end, I'll pop back in with a few questions, hopefully from listeners. But in the meantime, over to you, Alexander.
Amazing. Thank you. Hopefully, we can maybe get my slides up as well. There we go. How amazing is this? I just speak and things happen. This is incredible. This must be the future that we're looking at right now. I hope you're not all sick and tired of my voice and seeing me. I did do a few videos that hopefully you've engaged with throughout the week. What an incredible week it's been, and it's not over yet. Now, I've got some fun things planned for you all. I've got a little exercise that I hope you will engage with, and a few stories along the way. But before I dive into the content, I'd like to take you back to November 2020. It was lockdown 2 here in the UK. And like many of you around the world, I was at home, working when, Dad, I've been thinking about Christmas and I know what I really want. That dreaded question that we get as parents. In fact, that most of us are probably getting right about now in the run up to Christmas. The whole world has suddenly turned on Christmas mode. And I was working and I said, I'm busy working. Can't you go and bother somebody else? But Dexter carried on. Oh, Dad, loads of my friends have one. And I know that in the second drawer down, you have an old one that you never really use. Dad, I really, really want an iPhone for Christmas. Now, I was working with Warner Brothers at the time, creating a virtual reality version of the Harry Potter film sets. So my home office during that lockdown was like a treasure trove of technology, gadgets everywhere. And when I eventually looked up from my phone, I turned to Dexter and said, Dexter, they're bad for you. They're highly addictive. They're dangerous. You're not having one. Now, Dexter, who was 7 at the time, he's the slightly larger one in this photo, was a bit taken aback by this. His dad was working with Warner Brothers after all. He just wanted to be a part of this amazing world. And he kind of sheepishly replied, but Dad, if they're really that bad, why are you and Mummy on yours all the time? Because whilst I think it's true with technology that it does bring those who are far away closer to us, I think it's also true that sometimes technology can push those closest to us further away. Because when we talk about technology, we're not just talking about the devices. We're not just talking about AI. We're talking about people and the impact that technology has on people, on ourselves, on our relationships, and in our businesses. Who here, I know I can be incredibly guilty of this, who here has their phones out on their desk whilst they're trying to work? Well, research proves that by removing the device completely from the room our cognitive abilities can increase by as much as 26%. Even if you have your phone in a bag or in a pocket out of view, but still nearby, the research tells us that our cognitive abilities, our focus, is still impacted by 10%. What would a 26% increase in focus, in productivity, make across your organization? What if it really was as simple as just removing the devices from the room? Well, it's not as simple as that. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. Because we live in a world where we are surrounded by screens and technology. You're watching me on a screen right now. And it's easy to say, well, yeah, but this is all the kids. And yes, they might be on TikTok for 12 hours every day. But actually, if we're really honest with ourselves, with all the Instagram messages, the social media accounts, the news feeds, the emails, the WhatsApp messages, the Teams messages, the Teams calls, can't we sometimes be just as bad? On the incredibly rare occasion that my wife and I can actually agree on something to watch together on TV, I can guarantee within the first few moments, she'll turn to me and say, "What have they been in? What's he been in before? What's she been in before?" And before I can even think of a response, she's Googled it, she's followed them on Instagram, she's checked the end of the film, and she's watching something else. It drives me crazy. And when we do venture out of the house, this is the scene. When we go to a restaurant, it's like the Wild West. Fastest finger first to get out your phones and put them on the table. Who here has ever taken a picture of their food whilst they've been in a restaurant? Why do we do it? What do we do with those pictures? We can't recreate those dishes. We don't print them out and hang them on our walls at home. It's ridiculous. And because we have our phones out at the table in the restaurant industry thought it would be a good idea to put the menu on a QR code. Good evening, sir, madam. Welcome to Bell's Bistro. Now, if there is anything I can get for you, anything at all, please scan the QR code because I don't care anymore. That's not customer service. Is that how we want to be treated as customers? Is that maybe how you're treating your customers and colleagues within your organization? Because with too much technology, the interactions, the relationships, the experience isn't personal anymore. It becomes transactional. You see, that's the real opportunity with technology, not to replace us as humans, but to empower us. It should be doing the work in the background. It should be helping with the heavy lifting in the background so that it can free us up to be human, to invest our time in human to human relationships, in developing those experiences that our customers and our clients can experience with our organization, with our people. That's the opportunity with technology, not to replace us, not to replace the waiting staff in restaurants. It should empower us. And again, this is what I'd like to talk to you about today. But there is hope. This is Al Condominio, an Italian restaurant in Verona. And in many ways, it's just like any other Italian restaurant. When you walk in, you can smell the garlic bread. You can hear the pots clashing, the coffee machine grinding espressos. But at Al Condominio, they do one thing very different. You see, when you turn up and make a reservation at Al Condominio and you walk in, they'll say, "Welcome, sirs, madam, to Al Condominio. Before we take you to your table, would you mind handing over your phones and putting them in our locked box?" What? Hand over my phone. How dare you? Who do you think I am? I'm not one of these customers who's going to sit at their table scrolling or taking pictures of their food for Instagram. How dare you? Please, please, sir, madam, please. If you do this, if you hand over your devices, we will give you a free bottle of wine. You're all handing over your devices now. Who wants to go to Verona and visit Al Condominio now? And the reviews are in. Needless to say, with the promise of free wine, the restaurant has done a roaring trade. Of course they have. They're all drunk. And the manager goes on to say 90% of customers have opted to leave aside their phones in exchange for free wine. It really is a beautiful thing to see people talking to each other rather than on their devices. But when we think about this, is the true price of human connection really just a free bottle of wine? What are the costs that we're paying by being distracted by technology? And isn't it time that we place a higher value on human connection, a higher value on human conversation? And we can go one step further. Where is the free wine in your organization? Hypothetical free wine. I know it's Friday, but where is the free wine? Where are those moments where you could incentivize human connection within your organization? Because building this culture of human connection is one of the most important aspects of your organization's DNA. You see, we used to say that people were the most valuable asset of our organization. Well, guess what? Your people are still the most valuable asset of your organization, but only if you let them be, only if you can encourage them to be. Because in this age of digital everything, human connection, genuine human connection, doesn't just happen by accident anymore. If it's not happening in restaurants, it's not happening inside your organization. So you have to plan for it to happen. You have to become creative and incentivize ways that humans can connect with each other. You have to find ways that people can use technology to free up their time so that they can invest them in people relationships. That's the opportunity. And this is why I created Tech Rules, because we all have habits and behaviors with our technology, with our devices. It's just most of us have never really sat down and intentionally designed these habits and behaviors ourselves. Instead, we've been handed these habits, handed these common rituals by the hundreds of thousands and millions of interactions that we have with technology, which have been designed by, let's face it, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of very smart engineers whose job it is to design these interfaces that capture our attention and hold it for as long as possible. And in Tech Rules, I go through the 7 areas, the 7 rules that I believe really define our relationship with technology. Now, we don't have time to go through all 7 today, but we can focus on the first one, the most important one, which is our attention, or in its most measurable form, time. Because time can really be described as 3 states. We're either asleep, we're either in a conscious state and we're awake, or we're in an attentive state. We're trying to do something with our time. And again, there's research now that actually shows it's a different part of our brain that is activated from the consciousness side to the part that becomes alive when we try and focus on something, when we try and do something with our time. So if it's a different part of our brain, it's like a muscle. We can work on it. We can improve our skills. So I believe we need to think as time as really being attention, then actually we need to move our attention towards something that I call attention intelligence, which is the human AI that I believe we all have access to. Because when you start paying attention to what you pay attention to, then you can start to retain and retrain your attention and focus. You can start to identify the areas of distractions that might be creeping in. We all find ourselves multitasking, constant streams, constant notifications, things shouting out for our attention at all times. So we need to pay attention to this. We need to start working on where our attention goes so that we can improve it and focus on the one human skill set that we all have. See, I believe there's really four states of focus. There's the first state, which is where we don't have really any technology going on. We've got a piece of paper and a pen. And that can be great for deep work, for deep focus, or for journaling or things like that. But it's not practical for most of our work. So then there's the second state, and that's where most of us find ourselves in. We are constantly distracted by technology. We're multitasking for most of the time. And we know that multitasking is not the most optimum way of working. So then there's the third state. And this is where we've become aware of the impact that technology has on our attention, on our focus and productivity. And we've started identifying ways and tools that we can actually help to improve our focus and reduce the level of distraction that is happening. Now, at the end of this talk, I'm going to give you a link where you can actually access all the links to the tools that you see on this slide right now. But this is really to say that there are a whole suite of tools that are available for you to use across all of your devices. And I really urge you all to start experimenting with some of these tools and find ways that really help you to reduce the distractions and have clarity in your focus and attention. There's one that I just want to pull your attention to right now in the middle of the screen. There's a little icon of grass, and that's an app called Touch Grass. This is an app where you install it on your phone. And whenever you want to open one of your social media or distracting apps, you have to go outside and you have to physically take a picture of your hand touching grass before it allows you to go onto those distracting apps. It's absolutely genius. Okay, let's have a bit of fun. You see, the average adult spends around 4 hours on their phone every day. I'd like you to have a think. How many hours do you think you spend on your phone every day? Is it less than that average? Is it 2 hours, 3 hours? Is it perhaps more than that average? Well, actually, your devices can tell you. You see, if you dive into the settings, and I would urge you to do this right now if you have your devices on you. Maybe not if you're watching this on your phone, actually, because we might lose you from the stream. But if your phone is beside you and you're watching on a bigger screen, then you can join in. On an Android, dive into your settings and scroll down and you'll find digital well-being and parental controls. On an iPhone, it's under settings and something that's called screen time. Now in here, if you've got it activated, if you haven't, I would urge you to turn it on. It will tell you the data of how you're using your device. And it will give you something that's called your daily average. There's a whole heap of statistics in here that we could get into, but I really want you to focus on what your daily average is. Now, once you've got that number, it might be 3 hours, it might be 4 hours. I want you to calculate what your next 5 years screen time is going to be based on that average. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, but you've all got calculators on your phones. So I want you to take that daily average figure. I want you to multiply it by 1,825. That's the number of days in 5 years. And then divide it by 24. This will give you how many days you're going to be spending on your devices over the next 5 years. Here's a cheat sheet for you. If you're averaging 1 hour a day over the next 5 years, that will equal 76 days. 2 hours is 152 days. 3 hours is 228 days. 4 hours is 304 days. That's without sleep. That's just constantly on your phones. If anybody's brave enough, if you've done that calculation, I would love you to put it in the chat so we can see afterwards. But how does that number make you feel? Those 76 days, those 150 days, those 300 days over the next 5 years that you are likely to spend on your phones. Do we really want to reach the end of our days and look back, having spent 5, 10, maybe even 15 years, for some of us, just on our devices? This tombstone is real. It belonged to a lady called Rita Shemiva. She died aged 25 from unknown causes. Her family said that she was so obsessed with her phone that they dedicated her grave to her iPhone. On the back of the tombstone, there is a QR code, which if you scan this, it takes you to a page that shows her most popular social media posts. Is this what living is all about? Is this the legacy that you want to leave behind? 5, 10, maybe 15 years just on your phones. See, this isn't just about screen time. This is about your lifetime and your lifetime with technology. Isn't this what Dexter really meant when he turned to me and said, "But Dad, if they're really that bad, why are you and Mummy on yours all the time?" Now, of course, we need to mention this man, Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone. He said many things during his life, but there is one quote that I'd really like to bring your attention to, and it's this: "We walk through life with our eyes shut. There are things all around us, right at our very feet, that we never see because we never truly look." He said this over 150 years ago, but I think it's even more relevant today than it perhaps was then. Because we all walk through life, we race through life with our eyes shut. There are things, people all around us that we never see because we never find the time to truly stop and look. Now, this is one of my favorite pictures of Alexander Graham Bell. It's a real photograph. This isn't AI generated, a rare thing these days. Now, this is a photo that was taken of the very first long distance call between Boston and New York. I believe it was in 1892. The very first long distance call. Can you imagine how amazing it must have seemed that this new idea of connection, this new technology was changing the world 150 years ago? Can you believe that we've gone through 150 years to reach a point where we've actually stopped talking to each other. We used to be so proud of technology, so proud of connecting with each other. For some of us on this session, we might remember a time when we actually answered the phone in third person. We were just so excited. Now, this gentleman is a guy called Marty Cooper. He actually invented the cell phone, an incredible guy. He held the very first call on a mobile telephone. And when I interviewed him a couple of years ago, he said many things, but there's one thing that I'd like to share with you today, which is this. He said, when we can't sit next to each other, a telephone call is the next best thing. What I love about this quote from this incredible inventor is the fact that he didn't create the mobile telephone to replace sitting next to each other. He created it as the next best thing when we can't be there in person. See, I think we've reached a point where we are all guilty of just racing through life and forgetting that actually taking the time to meet up, to actually sit next to each other and talk and connect as humans, which is actually one of the most important aspects of communication. Now, I know what you're all thinking. And no, my middle name is not Graham. I know I'm a total fraud, but actually, neither was his, because he was born Alexander Bell and he didn't have a middle name. His two older brothers had middle names, but he didn't. And so for his 11th birthday, he asked his father whether he could have a middle name for his birthday. And Graham was a colleague of his father's and a family friend. And so from age 11 onwards, he was known as Alexander Graham Bell. Now, when I was 11, it was 1997. Here I am on the left of your screens. Unfortunately, I'm now starting to look more like the one on your right, which is my dad, my poor wife. But when I was 11, it was 1997, and it was my first year in high school, in the big secondary school here in the UK. And me and a group of my friends thought it would be a good idea to enter the school talent show that happened that year. And we thought we would reenact the final scene from a very famous British film that was released in 1997. Can you think of maybe a really global, worldwide hit film, British made film, that was released in 1997? It wasn't the Titanic, if that's what came to your mind. It would have been a bit odd if I'd stood at the corner of the stage saying I'm on top of the world. It was, in fact, a film called The Full Monty. Now, if you haven't seen this film, it's a film about a group of steelworkers, and the steelworks get closed down, so they are all made unemployed. And in order to raise a bit of money, they decide to turn to male stripping. It's a brilliant film. I would urge you to watch it. Well, we recreated the final scene, the final strip tease that they do in that film. We took our blazers off, we took our ties off, we took our shirts off. We wore those Adidas basketball trousers, the ones with poppers all the way down the sides. We ripped those off to reveal, true to the film, tiny red pants. We must have looked ridiculous. But it was 1997. The smartphone hadn't been invented yet. The mobile phones back then didn't have cameras on them. They didn't even have color screens. So it really wasn't a problem, wasn't a big deal. But imagine if it happened today. The only thing that audience would be interested in doing would have been to capture it on their phones and post it to social media. How many of you have been to a concert where all you can see are people holding their phones, recording videos? When did capturing the moment become more important than being in the moment. Are we really in the moment anymore? Or is technology sometimes getting in the way? And so I'd like to end on this idea of attention intelligence. In this age of AI and technology, I believe it's our attention, which is our core human skill, that we need to control. Because tech rules, technology is amazing. But I think we can all agree it can also be a distraction. Because without tech rules you. Thank you. And there's the link. If anybody wants access to all of those tools that I showed earlier, there's the link for you to download and get all of the links to all of those completely for free. So it's alexanderbell.co/tools.
Well, Alexander, well, thank you so much. We've learned so much, and we've seen so much, maybe a little bit too much in more ways than one. So we've got a question that's come through. What's the biggest misconception leaders have about technology's impact on attention and performance? What would you say?
I think it's how it's measured. So I think if we are looking at attention and focus as being just simply a measure of time, then I think that's not the best way of doing it, because everybody's attention and focus, it's constantly on the move. We are able to focus at a certain period of time, and then it starts to drift off. And if other distractions are really coming in, then that attention can wander. Whereas if the numbers tell us that, well, they are responding to this amount of emails, and they are online at their activity is showing that they're online at these times of the day, well, that's somebody's 10 minutes could equal somebody else's 10 hours. It can be that different. So I think we really need to pay attention to actually what's being done and what the environment and mood that person is in when they are trying to focus.
Alexander, listen, thank you so much for sharing these perspectives, insights, and again, those that are listening, you're intrigued, you're curious, you'd like to know more, I'm sure you can reach out to Alexander straight over there on LinkedIn and connect and take those conversations forward as well. But in the meantime, thank you so much, Alexander Full Monty Bell, for your insights and more importantly of all, your time. Thank you so much.
No, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me as part of the day.
Bye-bye.